I know, I've made such a big deal about not getting any miniatures, and I just needed some retail therapy, and it was the last raptor hunting pack in the shop. How could I not? I mean, just look at the little faces. Let's get these little sweeties cleaned up and painted. So obviously these are Wizkids deep cut minis, and they are primed and ready, and I honestly don't know why they do that, because to somebody that sort of takes a bit more pride in their models, you obviously want to clear off the mould lines, and there are some on this, but a quick scrape with a knife will sort all of that out for us. It's not going to take too much, but that undercoat will need to get touched up a little bit more. Alright, I've got them glued onto the bases, and I've put a little bit of basing material around. Normally at this stage I would give them an undercoat, but yes, apparently not supposed to do that with the Wizkids deep cut ones, so I haven't. And I am not going to paint the bases in straight away. I'm actually going to leave that to the end of the model, and I'm not 100% certain why. It just feels as if that is the right decision. So I'm going to go with my gut. Now, for raptors, they are in a pack. You may have seen this kind of formation somewhere before, but to tell them apart, because they are individuals, everybody gets a different base coat. And this is Velociraptor Stonewall Grey, and I'm just giving it a quick all over just to make sure that where I've cleaned the model, you know, yes, I will have scraped that undercoat off, so I'm just making sure that I reapply something that is going to basically act as that undercoat. It is the base coat colour, and I'm going to do that on 3 of the models, and then the 4th gets a different colour base coat. And I think quite possibly the reason why I decided against doing the base first is because I knew I was going to be sort of slapping this base coat on quite quickly just to get it done. And the last one is getting a base coat of Tamiya dark yellow. Here's your have looks. Here's your checks. Your helps. Okay, so next colour. This is GW Camo Green, and I want some of this basically just on the kind of top areas of the model, and then the top of the legs. It's not an overall covering for this. And then on the shoulders and the tops of the arms. And of course, with it being sort of natural markings, it's not like you're trying to get it particularly uniform. Colours will blend into each other. So I would say that is that done for that one. Now, just to get a little bit of definition on the skin on this one, I'm going to give it a quick wash of watered down flesh wash, and that should just sort of pick up the creases in the skin and give that a bit of better definition. I'm not doing that with the other ones because their particular markings don't sort of come into it too much, but it does on this one with it being a different sort of colouring scheme. Okay, I can come back to that one far later to give that wash a really good chance to dry. Right, what's our next colour? Now, I need to make teal for this one, so some camo green and a little bit of ultramarine blue. I'm reasonably okay with that. Let's dry brush this on, and then it's more of a sort of stippling around the front to break up the grey. Right, new mixing pot, and for this one I want some grey, and I want a little spot of black because that's just a little bit too much on the light side, and this needs to be a bluey grey, so I'm going to use Space Wolves grey to add the blue to it, and again just dry brushing over those areas. To be perfectly honest, probably more of an overbrush rather than a dry brush. Let's get a little bit of dark green out this time, and this is going to be some more detailed work because there are stripes to be applied. And the good thing about these miniatures is that they do have sort of markings already sort of etched into them, so it is just a case of kind of paint by numbers really, and that all I am doing is following the areas of the model. Alright, I'll carry on with this off camera because this is going to be painstaking and it's going to take a little while. And another one gets some stripes, and I think I'll use that as the base because these are more sort of blue stripes, so I'll mix a wee bit more blue into there. Yeah, that'll do. And again, it is just the same kind of stripe pattern as on the other one. So I'll get those painted in. Right, well, I'm happy with all the individual markings on there. So now it is time to go for the sort of generic fiddly bits. And this is, I think they used to call it snakebite leather. And I'm just going to use this to go over the claws prior to putting sort of a bone white over the top of them. And I'll do this with the whole lot. Right, I am going to do the mouths now, and I am going to experiment with another new product. It's another one from the Reeves family, and this is a gloss gel. Now, it does say that it thickens things up, so I already have a spot of water in there because I don't want this to be too thick, but I do want the gloss effect from it. So we'll get some of that in there, and I'm going to add a decent splodge of brown, and this is very old school titillating pink. That's coming up quite nicely. And I'll swap to a detail brush, and I'm just going to use that to paint the insides of the mouths. So just while the paint on the mouths are drying, there is one little bit more detail work that needs to be done on this one. And what I need is some white. And it needs to go up around the eye and then down along the back. And it needs to be quite a fat line, but it doesn't need to be straight. In fact, a bit of feathering along either side is well in order. Get that one on the tail a bit more prominent, because we do want it nice and white. And on this side, it actually comes further along the nose. Alright, yeah, I'm happy with that. That can dry. Just going to do a little bit of a lighter touch up on the tongue, just to give that a wee bit of a highlight. And then I'm going to swap to some bone white, and we'll just get these claws highlighted and the teeth. Alright, apart from eyes, which I'm going to do off camera because they are so finicky, and the ground cover, which is boring, these three are done. But I need one more colour mix. And what I need, apparently, is a metallic light blue. So I'm using silver for the metal. I'm adding it to the white I had previously. And here's that blue that I had. Let's get some of that into there. And I think that is what I'm after. So here goes. And I'm making sure that I leave a white outline around the side. But again, it is fine that it's a raggy line. Alright. I'll finish these young ladies off camera. We'll take some photos and have a bit of a natter about them. And the good thing is I painted them straight away, so they never made it onto the pile of shame. Let's quickly talk about game mechanics. Obviously I've painted those up to go in with the Jurassic Park franchise, and I've got a very special scenario in mind for my players to do with those guys. However, when you take the genetic engineering part, for these monsters, they're not monsters, they're lovely. I'll be perfectly honest, I am hard pressed to think of a game system where you can't actually slot them in as an encounter. Obviously modern day because of genetics, future because of genetics, D&D, they are there in the rules already. Okay, you might be a bit hard pressed to get them in with your Napoleonics campaign. I'll grant you that one. Speaking purely in terms of D&D, and here's the second edition, Monster Manual, those raptors do actually appear. It is on page 54, and you're looking for the Deinonychus. That is what the creatures in the movies were actually modelled on. Now, the entry is a little bit sparse, and I do disagree with it in places. It does refer to them being quite intelligent and hunting in packs. If you remember back in the movies, they actually had problem-solving skills. They could open doors. So yeah, just bear that in mind. The entry does say that they use cunning tactics, and one thing that I honestly believe is missing from the description here is when you saw them, they did have very particular tactics. One would appear in front of you, but you had to watch out for the ones coming from the sides that were hidden. So I reckon that they should have hide in shadows and move silently in the same way that a ranger does in their sort of preferred habitat. And if they manage to get surprise on you with a flank attack, backstab? Maybe. Now, in terms of this particular pack, if it's a more modern game that you're going for, with that genetic engineering, just remember that intelligence is heightened. So, well, even in D&D, is it going to be Charm Monster? Or is it going to be Animal Friendship, or possibly even Charm Person? And just remember those pack tactics. One of them, Blue in our case, is the pack leader, and the others will defer. So even if you manage to charm one of the other ones, they're constantly going to be getting saving throws if you attempt to get them to do something which is not in their nature, which is go against the pack leader. But let's talk about Blue in particular. Being the pack leader, if you can get her on your side, animal handling skill, it's going to be at some pretty hefty penalties. But this might not necessarily be a deadly encounter. One of your party might possibly end up with some very special henchmen. Or hench ladies in their case. Anyway, that's about enough from me for this video. If you found anything in here useful in any way, shape or form, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment. That would be absolutely brilliant, because I always love the feedback, and if you've got any suggestions or there is anything that you want me to cover or do as a project, I'm always open to it. Get notifications, because there are going to be new videos coming out basically as soon as I can make them. But for now, I'll see you. Enjoy your games.